So welcome to a very impromptu talking point. So we've all watched the new Battlefield 1 trailer, and we have some very immediate opinions on it. So this may be a shorter talking points than usual, but we thought we'd get it down and get our opinions down. So I know I've been holding these guys back from talking.
I mean, what the hell is even happening?
He screams into the microphone.
I'm just sat here with it on silent, repeating over and over again. Who the fuck creates 7-nation army? There's not even 7 nations. It's not going to be exactly
Russia,
7
France,
nations.
UK.
I mean,
Russia. Okay, for starters, stop saying the UK. It's the British Empire. Technically, it's the French Empire as well.
Yeah.
So even if we count the British Empire as one nation instead of like a dozen different crown dominions and would-be crown dominions, what am I?
Nations and 3 empire. Well, no, 2 nations and 5 empires.
I think the Russians are an empire as well, and the Germans are an empire.
Pretty much everyone is an empire.
4 empires and the United States walk into a bar. Which one of them's late?
7 empires and affiliates.
Crown protectorates and dominions.
Why is the Zeppelin? And the guy's looking terrified. It's a fucking Zeppelin, mate. You have a gun in your hand. You can shoot. Bang! It will pop. Well, it won't pop.
Yeah,
but it
they
will
have
slowly.
guns on the Zeppelin as well.
But it's a Zeppelin.
Anyway, so I introduced these guys to this trailer, and my immediate thoughts. I've never seen a trailer or any form of media that goes "fuck yeah, World War One." So that's immediately interesting.
I mean, it's
it's like what I was arguing before we started recording was that because I hadn't actually watched it, I'd seen like little snippets and gifs and stuff. So my immediate reaction to Ben's accusation of "Hoorah, World War One" was maybe it's portraying it as young men off to war to serve king and country, etc., or the empire. After having watched this, like. Yeah, it's not. I'm not sure how I received this. It's very fuck yeah World War One, but it's also approaching Warhorse. It's a medium between fuck yeah World War One and Warhorse.
Okay, so first of all, at best these are all English troops so far. Like to a man, I have only seen troops in what look like English uniforms. They might be Americans. Mm-hmm. And also, secondly. Like, look at the facial expressions on these guys. The music couches is at fuck yeah, World War One. Look at all this chaos, haha, isn't it glorious? But like right at the end, when it starts to get discordant, half of these guys are developing PTSD, and you're watching them do it. The rest of them are engaging in really brutal acts or looking really stressed. They are having an unpleasant time. The only person smiling in the entire thing is Lawrence of Arabia, or whoever the fuck that guy is, and I don't think he's mentally stable.
It's an interesting mixed bag. I mean, you could say it portrays a sort of discordant thing. There's a 5 seconds in where they're firing off a lot of shells, and there's a picture of a guy grimacing and holding his ear because he's standing next. Yeah. He's sitting next to the shells. But at the same time, you've got this bombastic 7-nation army going on. I'm sorry, tonal shift.
I kind of like it. I don't like. I've got to admit, I like
cinematically.
Yeah, cinematically, it's
it really grabs your attention, which is so. Yeah, as trailers go, it's really sort of hit a note there. Maybe in a bad way, but certainly in an interesting way.
Yeah, it's
a game as a setting to place a game about war and the celebration of the fact and the people who were fighting in it. The First World War seems like an extremely weird place to put it. I mean, you can, especially because this seems to be focusing very heavily on the European theatre, as Ewan pointed out.
Apart from the desert bit.
Apart from focusing very heavily, but it only really shows one bit of trench warfare, which is just because there were a few battles at the beginning of the First World War, and then it descended into 4 years of mud, barbed wire, and shelling.
This is actually a couple.
This is 2016.
Yeah, it seems quite mixed. To be fair,
it's quite a lot more to the World War. So,
and depending on
it's nice seeing. it's nice seeing other areas of the war. And I thought I saw Gallipoli. I was wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, like,
You couldn't do it. You couldn't.
well, I would have said that about World War One. If you'd have not shown me this trailer and told me the next battlefield is Battlefield World War One, I would have just what the fucked at you heavily and then laughed. And then being dumbfounded for a clear 2 minutes before the rage started to spill forth the second you showed me the trailer.
Yeah.
Also, I've just noticed that the title image, this is probably slightly a weird one, but this is quite a racist period of time, and that's quite clearly a black guy.
Oh, what the?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's interesting. I mean, there were British Empire troops and
yeah,
French Empire troops.
from his uniform, I have no idea who the hell he was. Who the?
Well, he's got a
hell he was
Mauser. He's a
fighting
German
for.
troop.
Yeah, but then this is pre-Nazi Germany, so
There were, in fact, native African
Well, yeah,
troops
but
fighting
I
for
said-
the German Empire, but it was mostly in Tanganyika, I want to say.
oh yeah, what like that one general guy who wouldn't back down.
Tanganyika territory.
I'm sorry if this has no structure, by the way. Like I said, this is very impromptu. So, apologies, everyone.
We're gonna give this to Benji, and he'll just cut it all up, right?
Sure,
Oh,
but
yeah.
fix it in post.
Yeah, along with Final Fantasy, yeah?
Yeah, he was actually going to do a remix video of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be
Yeah,
called
it was.
Whitey's a Racist too.
Anyway, so are you guys angry at the tone of the trailer because you think it's disrespectful?
I mean, to be strictly fair, it's no more disrespectful than any other FPS shooter. And yeah, I guess everything's fair game. It's just, it's a bit bizarre, really. I can't think of any way you can couch World War One as people were going into this and yeah, you're going to have a good time. Like, as Whitey said, maybe if everyone was enlisting, but these people aren't enlisting. These people are halfway through. Like, they've got tanks, they've got zeppelins, they've in trenches.
First, you say the first image you see after Dice and Frostbite is a German soldier with what is essentially a stick with some nails in it, caving a guy's skull in.
I think that's an entrenching spade. Oh no, it is a stick. No,
A stick with some
yeah,
nails
no,
in it.
you're correct.
It's a trench mallet. They did have those.
French mallets could do anything because the supplies were limited. So yeah, he's literally got a stick and put
Well,
some
yeah,
nails
that's-
through it.
Oh, and then the next shot is a guy doing it with a spade.
Oh yeah.
He's got an entrenching tool for some reason, which is
I just call it a spade. Also, why is that tank crushing Allied troops? And okay, I'll tell you the one thing that does
It's
actually
not crushing
get me in
Allied
this.
troops. It's sort of getting the guy doesn't get crushed. He runs away, but it is a bit of a
Like, it's just
dangerous lack of regard.
And the one
Health
that's
and
going
safety.
over an Allied trench, quite clearly, slightly further along.
Is that an Allied trench? Because it looks like it's.
They're all
crushing.
none of them are wearing German helmets. They're all wearing either British Empire or American helmets.
in the First World War. But in terms of the set,
Yeah.
in terms
Verdun.
Verdun.
But,
oh, okay. So
Oh, yeah, last-
to my
There's
knowledge,
There's
there
been
hasn't
loads of games done in the First World War. There's not been a major AAA shooter done that I can think of.
there's not many good games.
Ooh, bitchy.
You can taste the salt in the air.
Last World War One game we played was Verdun, which had a completely different atmosphere to this.
what the hopelessness
I had a
of
good-
continually going over the top and getting gunned
Fucking
down.
World War One simulator.
What, where you got
I had
executed for going away from the line?
I
A
spawned
very
and I
good
was killed in
time.
2 seconds.
I had a very good time with what's it called? Darkest Hour. That was a World War One mod for Hearts of Iron.
My lack of knowledge about World War One games notwithstanding, in terms of a historical era to couch your game in, to set it in, World War One seemed
World War
extremely
The sun's
odd.
going supernova.
Just because-
for Queen and country, we must fight it.
Now that would be interesting. Like you think about the major battles of World War One, and well, 2016. What happened 100 years ago? The Battle of the Somme. where it was proved once and for all that the Allied generals had no idea of what they were doing and were basically going, they'll eventually run out of bullets, so we'll just keep throwing people at them and then they'll eventually die.
I guess the intelligence was pretty primitive.
Yeah.
To be
honest,
fair to.
I don't know. I kind of think of this from
okay.
a slightly different perspective. Yeah, all war is tragic, and the stuff that happened in World War One is particularly ghastly. But at the same time, that doesn't mean we should shy from it as a topic to be the focus of a game.
It doesn't.
If you think about World War Two, was far more recent by comparison, and we've got Middle Eastern conflicts that are present in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Like, why should we shy from something that's 100 years on
Presence
plus?
in battlefields.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
actually...
Like, why should we shy from the topic?
Again, not that we should show from the topic, but the tone of the video and the way it's edited together make it seem far more like a fuck yeah modern warfighter. You know, what the hell's it called?
On the other hand,
Medal
actually,
of Honor warfighter. Fuck yeah, hoorah game. It makes it seem that way, as opposed to a very dubious grey versus grey, everything's bleak and shit game. In terms of, I'm trying to think. Wait, it's set in Dubai. Really
you're
good.
thinking of Spec Ops.
Spec Ops.
Spec Ops: The Line. You'd think it would be like Spec Ops: The Line and presented like Spec Ops: The Line.
I don't think
Actually, watching it without the music, it may just be the music that's giving it that tone.
Just
because
the music.
The clips are people getting gunned down, people getting like friendly fire left, right, and centre.
Yeah, mute the video and just watch it through. It becomes
yeah.
very much more tragic.
Yeah,
But at the
chlorine
same
gas
time,
going off, people getting burned and crushed and shit.
This is not a static piece of audio. This was specifically remixed.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Someone
yeah.
had to attach this to set the tone. Music
Marketing.
is a huge part of setting the tone.
I'm wondering if it's just a marketing ploy.
Maybe
I don't know. I feel like people give Gears of War justly credit for the music used in its trailers. If you can get credit for the music used in your trailer,
I'm not
going to have it taken away as well.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to downplay the music whatsoever. It's like probably the most striking part of it. So I'm just saying it's quite interesting looking at the footage without the music.
I'm going to do an experiment actually with this music. Mad World is Mad World.
For the video, can we actually end it with this video with Mad World over the top, please?
I can edit in like different music over the video, no problem. Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
I'm assuming I'll be editing this.
Okay, alright, okay, well, no, Benji's going to edit it. You just give him the sound clips, it'll be fine.
No, Callum's going to edit it.
Ben edits it, Battlefield 2 will come out.
Battlefield 2. Oh, look,
Battlefield
now
2
we
is
are
actually
doing
already a
Abyssinia.
game. Yeah, you can't do Battlefield 2.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly watch this again to let
6,
my bewilderment refill with the sound on.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Watching this with Mad World on it is far more because obviously it's Mad World.
Do you reckon they already had like these? Do you reckon they already had this cut together and they late in production of the trailer?
If it was
they
remixed
chose
like that,
the music.
then odds it may well be that it was
started off a bit somber, and then they thought, this is kind of, well, let's be honest, boring. And then they thought, we'll shake it up a bit.
Maybe. As I said, like the thing is with marketing for games is that they're going to do what makes it sell, and like a lot of the audience is people like us who've grown up around the Call of Duty and Battlefield series, but a lot of it is also people younger than us who don't necessarily care as much about the history as we do as well, who are just going, fuck yeah, shooting things in World War One. I've not done that before. Like, you got to bear in mind that our mindset as individuals or as a group does not necessarily reflect everyone our age group and below.
I'm going to be honest. I want to. It's made me want to play it just for the sort of absurdity of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Having just watched that with Mad World all over it, it was akin to if you remember the original Gears of War trailer, which was just
Put that in the video.
Yeah.
All right, and then he dives through the thing, then he looks up because it's even got the same ending shot. He's got him looking up at the thing, and then obviously Marcus Phoenix is firing at it in the original trailer. But
well, yeah, it's sort of hopeless action scenes.
Wait, are we going to put in the first Gears of War trailer or the new one that also has Mad World?
You could put in either one.
The new one doesn't have Mad World.
Number three. Number 3. He's talking about number 3. That has
Oh,
Mad
fair
World.
enough.
The new one has Sound of Silence.
Think-
The new Sound of Silence.
Sound of Sadness was disturbed, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that really gets me in this trailer, because a lot of it is just over the top ridiculousness, the actual bit that I just sort of go what the fuck at, is where they show the chlorine gas. Now, I realise that games have had a thing where they kind of look over how horrific flamethrowers are for just years, to the extent that it's a complete non-issue. But I always kind of felt like gas as a weapon still
It's a
has
step
that.
too far. It's a step too far.
Well,
At
I
least
don't
in
know
your
if I'd say a
mind.
step too far, because
I would say a
that's
step too
dangerous. I'm willing to let people have whatever. I'm not going to call censorship on anything without good reason. But at the same time, in a fuck yeah video where everything, and in a fuck yeah game, what are the death animations going to be like for that? They're going to have people dying of chlorine gas right there on camera.
I would remind you that Spec Ops had the potassium
Yes, it did, Whitey.
White phosphorus.
And think how climactic that was. That looked like a grenade, not a once-only storytime thing that gives the protagonist PTSD and completely fucks everyone and everything around it.
I imagine it's going to be a red screen, like your vision goes red and then you fall over. They're not going to.
I think he's more talking about if you use it
it's
on
people watching.
Yeah.
Or if you get your gas mask on and the guy next to you doesn't. I just... Yeah, again, I wouldn't call censorship, but that doesn't mean I don't think it's perhaps in poor taste.
But I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a bomb.
Like,
even if it's
I
a
mean, like,
bloody mortar
it's
or a
Battlefield.
power-up. Worse if it's a power-up.
it's Battlefield. You're gonna get like artillery pieces in it anyway. It's all about vehicles and things.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's because like games they skip over. They don't dwell on death so much anyway, especially in shooters. You don't like shoot someone a couple of times in the chest and then they're gone forever.
This is true, but even in the most sort of morally questionable
99.9% of the shooters, you'll get shot a couple of times and then you'll fall over dead. You're not going to have people lying on the ground screaming in pain with their guts hanging out.
If we examine this as just saying you want to be the heroes of this game, right? Unless this is a Spec Ops Align thing, just showing that everyone had it pretty equally shit.
It's not going to be Spec Ops,
but
so it doesn't have to be.
If it's going to be set that you are playing a certain faction, and say you're playing as the French Empire, for example, and you use gas as a weapon on the front, real hard to consider yourself in a heroic light at that point, because you've just used a gas attack on somebody.
At the same time, it's a different way of... It's a different mechanic, which is probably why it's been included. It's something that players have never had to deal with in a game before, or at least not in this particular way. So that's probably partially why they're delivering it as such, because they want to use it as a game mechanic to keep players excited by something new.
Players have categorically had to deal with poison gas in games many, many times.
Yeah.
The issue is chlorine or mustard gas in a World War One setting.
I mean, like going back to flamethrowers though. Call of Duty World War One. No, God, what am I talking about? Call of Duty World at War.
Yeah, Vietnam.
Not the Vietnam campaign. It was the Japan Japanese islands.
The island
campaign,
hopping to Okinawa.
Yeah, where you were very explicitly part of a flamethrower crew.
Yeah.
So, and they pulled that off, and they didn't really pay much attention to the actual flamethrower things of it. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't really see how this is going to cause much of an uproar.
As I said,
like,
the thing
specifically
is,
because of the gas.
This is what I was saying about how a lot of people I don't think are going to look at it the same way, say, Ewan or we look at it. It's
just going to be like a status effect or something, or it's going to be something to avoid. Gas. Oh, never mind.
And the thing is, for most people, they're gonna have a very blasé opinion about it. People who, as I said, care about history or have some sort of involvement with it are going to care far more, and that's when you're going to get if there were to be some sort of like backlash or negative opinions, such as you appear to be holding. That's where it's going to stem from. It's going to stem from the older crowds. It's not going to stem from the younger ones, which is their target market. And like people, a game can be 18 plus, but they will always aim it lower. They will always aim it lower. Like look at Doom as well. Like Doom is that going to be an 18 when it comes out, the new one?
I think it is actually.
Yeah. Like let's face it, 15, 12-year-olds, like they're all going to want to play it as well because it's gritty and it's violent and but like they've made this trailer just as bombastic in its own little way as the Doom trailer. People by and large don't care for the history, I don't think. That's not to say that I probably wouldn't play this game and wouldn't enjoy it, but the only difference is that I would kind of respect and understand what happened.
I really wouldn't.
Holy shit! Those mountains are the Alps, according to the website. That's
really
the playing scene. So the Alps being sort of one of the few areas of combat worse than the trenches. In that, it was just Austrians mowing down thousands upon thousands of Italian conscripts sans the trenches.
Because they didn't have the trenches.
Yeah, because they didn't have the trenches, but their opponents had mountains.
Let's not forget that Battlefield as a series is historically very multiplayer focused, and this is likely going to be very multiplayer focused. So the campaign isn't going to be so much of a thing. I don't think they're going to try and tell this grand story through the campaign.
Seem odd as a setting for a game. Again, this is a war where war crimes were committed on a grand scale by all factions with it operating within it. I mean, this is the last war in which it was acceptable for armies to execute deserters for cowardice. Or at least, if not considered acceptable, it was widespread practice to execute deserters for cowardice. I mean, there were some that didn't. I mean, I don't think the Australians ever shot anyone for cowardice. I'm fairly sure the Canadians shot like 3 people and then realised it wasn't doing much.
I think our actual statistics for shooting people for cowardice were surprisingly low, considering. I mean, we still shot them, but it's a lot lower number than you would think. I swear it's in the double digits. But it wasn't. It was a thing, but it wasn't a widespread thing. They didn't have huge execution squads.
But as a world war, it was a ongoing and persistent conflict. But it wasn't a conflict really that contained many pitched battles. I mean, we're looking here at this. We're looking what appears to be 306. That's a lot more.
291 British, 25 Canadians, 5 Kiwis, 4 from British West Indies, no Australians, and then something civilians subject to military law, including indoctrinated Chinese workers. What? Okay.
Wow. Wait, you did say 306, yeah?
Yes.
396, or was it?
No, 306.
306.
306.
291 British.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
The next
I imagine
number
others we haven't heard of, but even so,
yeah,
you could double that number and it'd still be quite low.
Those are
like in the
just
grand
UK,
scheme of things, yeah.
British Empire ones.
If we look at, you can look at the naval battles, because there were a few naval battles, such as the Battle of Jutland, but then we look at the fronts of the war.
Yeah, a fair few.
If we think about where the war was being fought, there was fighting in Africa, which was actual what would be considered open battle and campaigns. There's naval battles going on. There's a multitude of things happening in the east, in Asia, and then there's Arabia, the Middle East, all stuff like that. And while there's a bit in the trailer that shows the Middle East, I can't see on this, there seems to be a lot of stuff involving the Western Front, and the Western Front is not really something you could really build a game around that would make any kind of historical sense, because I get that you want a game.
Historical sense, then.
Yeah, I get you want a game which is has a world war. But all I'm saying is, if you want a setting, make a setting. Don't do a Modern Warfare 2 and just make up stuff happening in the world. I mean, come on, Modern Warfare 3 had Russia invade Europe, all of it simultaneously. Make something up. Don't try and set it in something where one of the biggest two of the biggest pit battles.
You should be allowed to do something in a historical setting and not need to be historically accurate. You don't much as it pains me to say that, because my preference usually is the complete opposite. You just don't have to pay more than lip service to a setting if you really don't want to. If you want to produce something that's boorish and crass and hideously offensive, you can. And to its credit, this does not look ridiculously that bad, and it's one trailer, I'm not going to judge it, and I don't hate it. I'm just more sort of shocked, I'm dumbfounded at how they didn't go along Benji's line of thinking and then go, yeah, this is a terrible idea, why would we? Instead of the apparent sort of just power on through thing that must have happened.
Probably did consider it. But the shock value of it is probably why they went for it. So certainly generating a lot of discussion.
It's going to be hard to play as a protagonist in a World War One game. Not just because you could say, oh, well, it's conflicted and morally great. You're literally, if you are playing a soldier in a World War One campaign is as being represented within the game, you are literally one cog in a gigantic threshing machine that exists solely to throw bodies into it so it can make the most amount of horror possible. They used to melt down the corpses of their horses to make more bullets.
Yeah, but then that's you can quite easily. Yeah, I could quite easily see how they could build a story from that. You're the one cog who fights against all the odds to do the right thing in a horrible war.
Even if you've got to remember as well, like if you look at the death toll estimates in millions for all the war conflicts, the bloodiest conflicts, World War II is still up there, and yet people are batting eyelids at that. World War I only had 18 million as the mean log estimate. Whereas with World War II, it's 75 million.
Yes, but World War II is it's far more morally black and white. It can be justified far more.
World War II actually had far more combatants, period, as well. Your chances of dying in World War I were a lot higher.
Not to mention the fact that
Spanish flu isn't counted in the death totals for World War One, even though it probably was largely caused by...
No, I'm looking at statistics that do not include Spanish flu deaths.
World War II's deaths are to an extent complicit in World War One, seeing as how World War II was a direct outcome of World War One. And regardless of which faction you're playing for, you can argue that you're kind of eventually helping the Nazis and the Russians.
Kind of, I guess. I don't know.
How is it a kind of? In that your actions are always ultimately going to lead up to Versailles. Versailles is always ultimately going to lead up to the Germans getting utterly fucked, which is always ultimately going to lead up to the rise of Hitler, which is always ultimately going to lead up to Nazism.
I say kind of in a very abstracted sense from the whole like gear in a machine kind of thing. So... Yeah,
on that also...
At a macro scale, then yes, I suppose you are. But I would say that's a technicality. But yeah, I don't really see the issue with having a campaign that does portray it that way. Like, your character is morally... not exactly morally wrong, but morally flawed and
not even morally flawed.
He's not a good guy, or he's not a fully good guy.
Well, the point is that it doesn't even matter what your morals are in this case. You are literally you can be good or evil. But you're playing in a scenario that is pretty much bleak and pitiless as the slopes of hell itself.
Well, yeah,
but
you're portraying it as a bad thing, though.
I'll clarify my position. What my complaint has been about, and what I think a lot of our complaints has been about, with this trailer particularly, because that's what we're analysing here, because we're making speculation on what the game is going to be like and saying it should be this way, is that the trailer, as it is presented, as you described it yourself, is very, hoorah, fuck yeah, World War One. It comes across that way.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that combined with the setting of World War One is just incompatible. Because, as I said, you are a tiny cog in a machine designed to fuel death and war across the world.
If I'm being... calling back as well. I totally think you can be a tiny cog in a machine who ultimately contributes nothing and still get a good narrative story out of that. That is a wonderful sense of pathos.
Well, yeah, that's what I said to Ben earlier.
And what was I going to say? Oh, fuck, I've forgotten. Damn, derailed myself. Someone else do the thing.
Someone else do the thing.
No.
Well, you
opinion
can't,
for me.
while it can be argued that you're...
No, someone other than Benji. He just spoke.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see where you're coming from, or it could be seen as insensitive. But
fuck, I remembered.
Well, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think I've worked it out. Why this thing, again, strictly not offended me, why it's kind of shocked me a little bit. It is literally just that World War One is, in many regards, essentially virgin territory for big budget games like this. World War Two, you could, and indeed most wars, you could make almost all of these same arguments. If not on the same scale, then still something, a good reason why perhaps you should leave that one alone. It's just World War One, there's been some kind of unspoken narrative custom that really, that one's a bit serious, there's nothing we could get out of it. You could say the same thing about Vietnam, you could say the same thing about the Second World War, you could say the same thing about the ridiculously aborted War on Terror, and indeed, just about any Call of Duty or Battlefield or modern major FPS shooters subject matter. Just, this is violating a taboo. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think that's just why it shocked me.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. It, like, having watched the trailer properly after having seen all those GIFs, I would definitely agree that it caught me a little off guard, even with, like, having seen shots from it. It's virgin territory, and yeah, I can see where Ewan's come from on the whole. It's kind of sacred. I back that.
But taking that to its next level, it can be looked at that a lot of the games that from the past about subject matter like Vietnam, Second World War, the War on Terror, have not traditionally portrayed those wars as the morally dubious conflicts they have been. We were against, particularly, and this was our group reaction, the idea of a game being oorah First World War. Now we could say we go against the idea of a game being oorah Vietnam, oorah Korea.
I mean, they've done those though.
Or any game that's been set in Korea. I don't know any. I don't know.
I
any
don't
think it has been
Korean
in Korea.
Korea World War? What the hell did I just say?
But
video games saying Korea. At the very least, it's a popular strategy area.
But it needs to. The way that we're saying that it needs to go as a game is it needs to pretty much dig deep into that pit of moral ambiguity. If you're doing this as a World War One battlefield game, it needs to show the incredibly morally ambiguous aspects of every part of the war. If you're doing this as a battlefield game set in World War One, well then, just seems a bit hollow to set it in World War.
I'd be quite happy with
It seems a bit odd to set it in World War One because it's not a setting that would lend itself to the bombastic action and the open flowing gameplay that tends to show up in many modern AAA shooters. Given it was, at least in the European theatre, a grinding war of attrition of if we kill more of them, they'll lose faster.
I kind of find it a bit interesting with the scale of Battlefield games because a lot of the time it's 32 on 32 or sometimes like 64 on 64 players on very large maps. You half the size of those maps and you've got a World War One game. So
well, that's very true. I know I tell this story a lot, but my favourite servers for CNC Renegade were always the ones with 192 players on a map designed for 32, and you just end up in this glorious grinding war of attrition. There is something very fun about that. I think the longest one I was ever in lasted 3 days, and I went to bed twice during the course of it.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. In fact, I believe I was over your house for one of those days.
Quite possibly, but it was an excellent game. I got a lot out of it. It's just weird. I agree with Benji a little bit that yes, I think it is tasteless if they don't portray it particularly sensitively, which frankly I don't think they will. But at the same time, there's no reason why they shouldn't be allowed to do that. People are allowed to do that with every other form of in every other form of media and with every other piece of historical subject matter. You may get a bit of a backlash, you may not.
I don't think they'll get a backlash, I'll be totally honest.
I don't think they'll get a backlash. They perhaps maybe should get a backlash in many ways. Again, it's 2016. It's the centennial. Like, even
That's
if it was
probably why it's
2013
being
or
released now,
2019.
because it's the centennial. That's probably their exact marketing
maybe.
strategy.
Well, that is really callous.
Hoorah! 100 years. Exactly. Wait.
Hey,
What
kids.
day did World War One end? Hold on. Let me double check this.
The first
the 11th.
100,000 people to buy it will get.
We'll get
That's
shot
my
at
birthday.
dawn.
Oh my god.
I said. He said the first 100 people to buy it, and I said we'll be shot at dawn.
Well, that
Oh
is-
my god! Why are they not releasing it on November 11th?
Yeah. You'd think.
See, right. Okay, I think we've got a lot of stuff out, and this has grown to a moderate size. It's going to be cutting down. Closing remarks from people? I'm chairman now, by the way.
Oh, okay.
The way it's presented, it seems like the way to make this the best game it could possibly be, and say this is, to be a really good game, is if this is indeed a World War One battlefield game, is you have to show it incredibly morally ambiguously, a la Spec Ops: The Line. If it's just a battlefield game set in World War One, it seems like a really odd place to set the game that's seemingly just been chosen because it hasn't been done before.
Cool, fair point. Whitey?
For me, yeah, kind of a bit of that. I'd like to think that the game will be displayed tastefully while incorporating the war crimes. I actually not before I say I'd like to see war crimes. I would like to see how it is portrayed and how they tackle such a sensitive subject. And I think I'll actually play it. I'd genuinely like to see how that's tackled. Also, fuck yeah, World War One, hoorah!
And Callum?
Yeah, it's definitely piqued my interest. I think it's the Battlefield game that I've been most interested in years. So I don't know. I think that it's going to be so abstracted and so far removed from what World War One was like that you just wouldn't even be able to. It's too ridiculous to be insensitive, in my opinion. It's like it wears the clothes of World War One, but it's not trying to portray the conflict in any realistic sense whatsoever.
Like a modern Call of Duty game.
Yeah, but even more so, it's just kind of taking the trappings of what makes World War One. You take all the weapons out, you take all the gear, give them familiar locations, but then the actual historical side of things, they're not gonna touch.
Like I said, it's a battlefield. If it's a battlefield game set in World War One, it just seems odd.
Right, okay, well, we're on the closing remarks, so, and, yep, we know my opinion. I just think it's breaking a taboo, frankly. It's kind of weird. I hadn't really realised the taboo was there until I saw it in front of me, but I think that's definitely what my gut reaction is coming from. I won't say I'm not interested in it. I probably won't buy it. I assume when it comes out on PC it'll probably be Origin only, which is an instant no for me. But I'll be following it. Bye, kid.
Fair enough. Well, we've
Finally did it.
first time doing a talking points in a while. I've missed these.
And as a clarification, for anyone watching this video, we know you're not going to watch. If you watch the Battlefield 1 trailer after listening to this, watch it first with the music on, then watch it without any music, then watch it with a particularly somber song after it.
Avert this.
I'll try.
Look,
Watch it with Ride of the Valkyries afterwards.
We'll just make a playlist of the trailer plus like 6 different songs, including the Monster Mash, after this video.
Monster Mash. And the safety dance, please. The safety dance.
Yes, okay,
Look,
right. Everyone send me which songs they like. I'll get the things whipped up and I'll send them over to Callum. Oh, fuck it, I can upload them from here. They'll be ready to go as soon as this thing is.
Well, I'm going to have fun editing this, so I'll work out something in post regarding the trailer.
Awesome.
So that was the Battlefield 1 trailer. Not to be confused with Battlefield 1, the original Battlefield. So, yeah, I don't think there's much more to say. Well, there probably is much more to say, but for now we'll leave it, and we'll see you guys next time.
We can dance if we want to. We can leave your friends behind, 'cause your friends don't